So there is a lie that has made its way around the globe about 3 times at this point. And that lie has to do with the violence that essentially led to Charlie Kirk's demise, the assassination, the brutal execution of an innocent man in broad daylight. According to the quote unquote left, the politically left, the Democrats, the progressives, whatever you want to label them, according to most of them, this issue of violence is coming from both sides. Yeah. According to them, every time we hear another case of a leftist, whether they be a transformer or not, maybe they have a transformer lover or something like that, for some reason, it's not counted in as liberal violence, or I guess more specifically, leftist violence, which is at an all-time high. I mean, in the last at least 3 weeks, if we were to count in the Minnesota shooter who took the lives of those young, innocent children in a church. They were at school, but they were praying. It was a Catholic school. That demonic entity there was an obvious leftist who essentially succumbed to leftist ideology, propaganda. He was a transformer, simply said. So as we get into this and unpack this one a little bit, I want to start off with a video I came across, I'm talking about moments ago. And sometimes it just so happens that I want to get into a subject and I run across something last minute. And so here we are. Now, I haven't watched the totality of this, but I know that it is going to be, I guess, a perfect introduction into the subject. So let's go ahead and see what old Destiny has to say about this matter.
Conservatives have been disgusting for years, which is why I don't give a about anybody that winds up at any of these rallies and gets shot or whatever okay, because they had no problem making fun of Paul Pelosi. The entire world would be better off if these people were permanently removed from these platforms.
There's no context necessary for that. And that's all the airtime I'm about to give that goofball. So that was actually, I guess, right after the July 13, 2024 assassination attempt on our president and the unfortunate, I would say it was an assassination of a just so happens to be conservative man, but a man first, a father first, a man of God first, firefighter, man of his community in Corey. So that was the response that fiend, ghoul, that demonic entity known as Destiny, that was a comment that he had to make after a father and a husband lost his life due to another insane person following through on the sort of mental psychosis that he himself has. Now, again, Destiny is the quintessential definition of a leftist. He's so far left that he left even the insane Democratic Party behind. And so, again, I have a longer form video that I want us to get into, which is really a response to this lie. But before we do that, there is a clip that I came across. Sorry, there we go. From none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself. Sir Charles Kirk. And I feel he has one of the best definitions for what a leftist actually is. Because, you know, the word liberal, I overuse as much as many others, and it has been bastardized in a lot of different ways. It used to mean something very different a little while back, and it has been taken, it's been usurped, it's been used and abused. So let's just go ahead and get into this, and then we will continue.
So there's a difference between liberals and leftists, okay? It's a very big difference. A liberal is someone I will disagree with, and we'll have a wonderful time. We'll go out to dinner and we'll consider each other friends. A liberal is someone that might believe in gay marriage. They might believe in more accessible abortion. They might believe in higher taxes. And they might believe in, maybe more social welfare programs. That's a liberal. A liberal will agree to disagree. A liberal will have the conversation and they'll say, we might not agree on this, but I still treat you with respect and I really like you as a person. A leftist will try to shut you up before you even open your mouth. A leftist does not believe in capitalism whatsoever. A leftist is rooted in intolerance. And you see this happen all over the place in America, where college campuses I get shouted down. You heard my message tonight. Do you think I'm a hateful speaker? Do you think I bring vitriol? I get labeled by groups on the left in America that I should not be allowed to speak on U.S. campuses. That I'm somehow spreading vitriol and hatred, and I'm spreading dangerous ideas. There's a difference between a liberal and a leftist.
Shout out to our brother Charlie. Rest in paradise. And yeah. There is, or at least was indeed, a distinction between the two, I guess, more than just political points of view, is ideologies, temperaments. I used to believe that politics was simply about politics. I didn't understand how much weight there actually was in this one specific area of our lives and how much it showed about the other areas, right? For example, what makes you a conservative? You likely have certain values that you hold politically that are essential to your entire personality, who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in. For example, you do not believe in the mass genociding of the unborn. You don't. And so that is considered a conservative value. That value is not political in and of itself. It's just demonstrated politically when you're voting. Outside of that, it is basic humanity. It shows that you are the type of person who actually cares for all life. You know what I mean? So leftism and liberalism have become damn near indistinguishable due to those who use these titles. And so I do want to be fair as I continue in this point, not just today, but as we continue the conversation, day after day, month after month, year after year. I'm not looking to be divisive on purpose. It just so happens that these things are inherently divided. And as far as me, as a Christian, as a believer, I happen to know that God's moral law, God's universal principle, is inherently divisive. It's not one that causes necessarily people to be divided, but instead, when humans are prideful and humans want to go off of their own thing, when humans don't want to be in alignment with God's law, then you will essentially be divided from God's law. For example, if you don't want to go with the whole a boy is a boy, girl is a girl, male is a male, female is a female, if you don't want to go with that, which is the natural, God-ordained way that things are, but instead you want to rebel and do whatever it is you want to do for whatever given reasons, whether it's attention, you want some sense of community with others who are like you, you want some sort of significance, right? Whatever reason you're using this for, you're still wrong. You're still going down an unnatural path. And so when your politics becomes that, and you now start standing up for things that are in contradiction to God's law, again, I happen to believe that life does begin in the womb, and so does most of the law outside of the laws that have to do with even, infant life. You have laws that say if a woman is executed while pregnant, then the person will be considered for a double homie. That is in our law. But for some reason, that stops being a life when it is the mother that is doing it. We do that to try to make people comfortable or to take away the shame, the inherent guilt that must come as a result of taking somebody's life because it is unnatural to do so. Right? So again, the reason I'm kind of going on this rant is to clarify this point once and for all. And that's to say, when we speak of the left doing what the left is doing, we're speaking to not just your politics, but your ideology, your viewpoint on life. Because somebody tried to call me out. And of course, it happened to be a black woman who was calling me out because I was being honest about the Charlie Kirk assassination, who did it and why they did it, etc. And she was trying to say, oh, you're being intolerant, blah, blah, blah. But really, it was basically a coverted way to defend this individual while also proclaiming God's name. And I'm not going to say that this person is disingenuous or anything of that nature, but I will say this. There is the facts, what happened, what didn't happen. There's the truth, immutable, will never change. And when you have both of those things in line, it doesn't matter what you feel about it, they're still going to stand as the reality, right? So the facts are that this kid was a leftist. Like many of these individuals who are violent, who are corrosive, who are rebellious, antagonistic. When George Floyd dies, the cities are burnt down, or at least the buildings are burnt down. Looting takes place. People are being beat up in the streets. And yes, it is coming from those who would consider themselves as leftists, or who would be viewed and deemed as leftists by their political stance and also their way of being, their ideology, their overall identity. That's probably the best word I can use, identity. Their identification is with the ways of the left. And a lot of that is Marxist, right? By any means necessary, we will destroy the current system and structure that is at hand. If that means family, like the BLM scammers, one of their core tenets is to eradicate the nuclear family. Isn't that incredible? Considering that black people in America are one of the most broken when it comes to the household and the impact that has on every single other area of life. And yet this group that claims to care about black lives is creating more incidences of young black men and young black women having their lives taken, because you are more likely to engage in crime or be the victim of a crime if you come from a broken household. Again, the facts tell one story, the reality tells one story, and they tell a complete different other story. That is leftism. I was breaking this down to my lady yesterday. I said, isn't it interesting how it's left and right? I said, when you go right, you get it right. It's not to say this perfection, but you're going right, you're going the right way. When you go left, you get left. When things go left, and I'm a lefty, you understand, by nature, right? I'm left-handed. But when you go left, when things go left, when you get left, again, it's just a little, little wordplay there, but I'm pretty sure y'all catch what I'm throwing here. So yes, there is an issue on the left, and no, we're not going to pretend it's otherwise and continue to essentially entertain this conversation of it's both sides, it's both sides, it's both sides. Politically, it's not both sides. Socially, it's not both sides. It's not us and them doing it equally. No. Charlie was assassinated in broad daylight. It has been 9, almost 10 days till this day since that happened. And there has not been one riot. There has not been one burning of any city. Utah was not burned to the ground that night. You haven't had another life taken as, quote unquote, balancing things out as a result of that. Yet a stranger, a man who most would have ignored walking down the street, most leftists would have ignored walking down the street. Most of these yuppies would definitely have ignored. That man is made the poster child of this entire rebellious movement. And then what comes as a result? They burn the city. They steal from the stores. They cause havoc. I mean, they go into the institutions and they use this as a means to manipulate and get money and control institutions. That's what came as a byproduct of this man who they didn't even care about 10 seconds before that video was aired. These are the same people who, when Elon became friendly with our president, They burnt his cars down. They used to tell us that we needed to buy his car so we can save the damn planet from melting, right? They tried to force us by law to buy this man's cars. Not a week later, all of a sudden, these same people are burning his cars, are marking up and scratching up people's cars, not even his cars, people's cars, the cars that they bought that happened to be Elon's brand. Burning cars, burning down charge stations, attacking people who are in Teslas. That is the left. Okay, so Elon crashes out on Trump. Do you know the worst thing that happened on this side of the aisle? Do you know what we did besides make fun of him a little bit? You want to know? Nothing. I didn't even sell my Tesla stock, and thank God I held on to it. I did not even sell my Tesla stock. I kept that thing, and that thing's been booming. Okay, so he crashes out, whatever. Trump, hopefully you can continue to trust the right people at the right times, etc. Continue to use your discernment. Simple as that. We move on. We are not the same. Let me repeat. We are not the same. We don't operate the same. We don't move the same. We don't have the same values. We don't believe by any means necessary. We don't. There are some kooks. Absolutely. But guess what? They're not the ones disproportionately causing the havoc within our society. Why is it that most of the blue states are the ones where the most crime is, where it is the most dangerous for the law-abiding citizens? There's a story, and I have to get back into this one in a separate video. A woman was burnt alive on a New York subway right before, I believe, the results of the election. New York City, of course. Burnt. People just watched. Then Daniel Penny saves the people on that train from this lunatic on there. And say what you will about, did he restrain the man for too long, etc. The man said he was going to take somebody's life and nothing was going to stop him. And the women on that train felt safer because he was on that train. Black and quote unquote brown women, if I must add. Blue state. Look at the state of Philadelphia, who has almost damn near been flipped as of the last election. Look at San Francisco, Los Angeles. Look at Baltimore. Look at Memphis. Look at Chicago. Look at Washington before Trump stepped in and did what he had to do. Just take a simple look for yourself and you tell me, is it both sides? Again, I'm not saying this is perfection, but people usually start leaning right when they realize something is left out of this equation. You catch it? Yeah. And just one last point before I get into this, this final video. When I left the Democratic plantation, I encountered, or at least in a public way, I encountered more racism, more hatred, more threats upon my life than I ever had in my entire collective experience in the span of about a week. From around November 4th to around November 8th, 9th, I faced more hatred in a span of a week for having a different opinion than I did the entirety of my natural born life. It is not both sides. So let's go ahead and get into this last video. I'm going to just let it play out. Shout out to Gutfeld for feeling it in his gut. So where we at? Okay, booyah.
Yes, we don't need it. What is interesting here is why is only this happening on the left and not the right? That's all we need to know. There's absolutely no cognitive...
What about Melissa Hortman that we just talked about?
You want to talk about Melissa Hortman? Did you know her name before it happened? None of us...
I told you I was going to play this out. I have to address Melissa Hortman. Melissa Hortman was a Democratic congresswoman out of Minnesota. She was assassinated by a man who worked under Tim Walz's administration. She was assassinated not long after she voted with the Republican Party in terms of a bill that had to do with illegal immigrants healthcare. And she was very nervous in her last set of interviews because of this very point. That's when she was assassinated. Sketch? I think so. Also, Jessica, how is she still on Fox? I have no idea. I will play this out.
None of us were spending every single day talking about Mrs. Hortman. I never heard of her until after she died.
She doesn't matter?
Don't play that bullshit with me. You know what I'm saying is there was no demonization, amplification about that woman before she died. It was a specific crime against her by somebody who knew her. The same. Now you could bring up Josh Shapiro, but then you will not bring up, for example, that was a pro-Palestine person. So don't use your, what about this? The fact of the matter is the both sides argument not only doesn't fly, we don't care. We don't care about your both sides argument. That shit is dead. For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, your beliefs do not match reality, so you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm, we are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So Therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two
then,
sides argument, well, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because
that is not what she meant. She was indeed carrying forward leftist talking points of always pointing the finger on the other side of the aisle. It got so bad that they had a picture of Tyler Robinson wearing a MAGA shirt surfacing on X, and people were sharing that as if it was real. So shout out to Gutfeld. Yeah, he was really feeling that in his gut. He felt that in his gut. Yeah, I love it when folks go absolutely off script and just say exactly what they mean and mean what they say. No writers necessary. How do you really feel? Many of us feel the exact same way. We're tired of having to carry a burden that's not our own and to cover up for folks that don't give a damn about our own lives. You understand? We continue to pray for them and wish the absolute best for them. We wish God's will on their life and that they open their eyes to their evil and deceitful ways as we have had to in our own lives. You know, my recognition is that, maybe just maybe I'm not God. Yikes. Maybe just maybe there is one who is greater than I am and understands this thing called life way better than I do. And maybe it is smarter for me to actually tap into that one than it is for me to to continue to pretend. And so, yeah, we each have our, we got our bed to make and we got to lay in that bed. We have our choices to make in this life. And many leftists are choosing to continue to push hatred, evil, disdain, vitriol. That's why their rhetoric is so in line with these ways of thought. They have become okay with this. And we've had to pretend that, yeah, you know what? It's just been really extreme on both sides. How many politicians on the other side of the aisle have wished openly for the taking of our president's life, or at least the assault on our president's physical body? Is insane. The amount of comments made from Tim Walz, Tampon Tim himself, to Nancy the Corpse Pelosi. How many times Joe Carcass Biden has said he wants to take him behind the bleachers, or take him behind the tool shed, or whatever the hell, right? Whatever 1930s reference point he made time and time again. No, it's not the same. He made fun of you. Yes, Chrissy. Yes, he called you Krispy Kreme donuts. Okay, maybe he didn't say that. Maybe I said it. But yes, he posted a picture of you having drones dropping off McDonald's directly into your mouth. Yes, he did that. That's hilarious. Wishing his life end, that right there, trying to take his life, that's a different ball game. We are not the same. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.